appointment, right? It's value for an engagement. So what is something that's going to entice engagement? And, you know, I like that intro text of like, hey, you know, I'm sure you're just trying to figure it out. Let me get you what you need, right? If everybody has, like, if you have your own guide, you know, selling guide, or if you have your own seller presentation, right? If you get that in the hands of leads, you think that'll help you convert, right? Or get to an engagement. And that's kind of the first phase of what we're trying to get at here is, what do you want your leads to see day 1, day 2, day 3, in order to get that engagement easier and more automatic, right? That's the key. And for a lead to come in at 9 o'clock at night and yet still get everything that you need to get them, right? So who wants a CMA in their inbox? Who wants a video in their inbox, right? And I think that first day 1, let's write that out. You're going to create almost a mini flow chart, right? Day 1, they get a text, a call, and an email, right? What does that look like for you? Let's stay away from the calls and the text right now, because let's just use email and address, because that's the bulk, right? Is if we could squeeze some juice out of that one, you know, then you're going to get, the calls are going to become a lot easier, right?
Agreed.
So, okay. So cloud CMA, that's 1, right? What else? Tell me what your process is. Tell me what you're doing that has been effective, and let's develop something like that.
I'm not getting a lot of responses to my emails or texts. And I bombard them. I mean, not horribly, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So when I get emails, what do you guys do with your email?
If I get a response to one of my emails, you mean?
Well, if you get emails in your inbox, what's your behavior in your own email inbox?
At that point, I will call them.
Okay. Well, what I'm getting at is I probably unsubscribe for more emails than I receive. I've made more.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
I've made more of a purpose to like, man, why am I getting that stupid Nissan email? I make the effort to go in there and actually click the unsubscribe button, or I'll push the spam button. How many of you guys have gotten to that point where you're like, dude, I'm going to spend the 5 seconds or 10 seconds to actually go do it, right?
No, it's true, because at some point you realize I'm getting so many emails that if I just take a few more seconds to remove it, I'll never see that one again. Well, hopefully not for a while, right?
That's right.
So I think what he's getting at is that just sending out an automatic email in itself isn't even quite enough. I think that's what you're touching on, right, Jeff?
Yeah, or changing the subject to where it's actually going to get read, or it's valuable enough where it actually will get read and saved, right? Now, obviously, a phone number is going to be powerful, because I think a text, in my opinion, lead conversion, text to get to an email. Hey, I'm going to send this to you. Look for it. Boom, get it open, right? But if that email almost comes too soon after the registration, what does everybody think that email is? Automated, right? And so you've got to play that game a little bit of timing, right? And what does somebody want and need to see first, right? I was telling Steven yesterday, I said, look, man, if we have a phone number, I know we're not going to talk about this too much, but I want to send their CMA as a text with a link, right? I'm not sure how many of you guys are YLopo users, but they're one of the only ones that are actually doing property alerts via text message. You guys notice that? The power of that is amazing. You're providing a value without them having to like go to their email, right? So, hey man.
Just creeping here.
So for email, I think it's subject, and then making it something that they're actually going to see, right? So I think that's step 1. But retargeting,
I think, yeah, I mean, this is the thing, is like for a lot of you that are probably on this call today, you're like, hey, show me something and I'll implement it. And we will get to that, and we will do that. We're really looking, we want to first, before we just jump into the like how, this is a great opportunity to share, like, what are you doing, or what would you wish you could do? And then we can extract that out. I know, Kenny, you were about to say something as well. Just gonna unmute yourself. I can go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm new to StreetText, so I'm not using anything in particular. And I was talking to Ira yesterday, and I'm like trying to figure out, all these different avenues and see what people are using, and whether it's HomeBot or Cloud CMA or, because before for my trial, I was just getting information, going to MLS and doing an old fashioned CMA, which is okay. It's just time consuming.
Yeah, it's on you, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, okay, so we're kind of maybe in this discovery period of figuring out what is the best practice and then implementing it, right? So we could take what we do. What I guess I'm getting at is, what do you do now for any sellers that you get? If you get a referral today and says, hey, I have a buddy who's thinking about selling, what do you do? What do you do with that lead, right? You get them on the phone, you email them or you text them, you prepare a CMA, you blast it over, and then your follow-up cadence, right? And what we want to do with this is treat it no differently, right? But have it to where it's almost automatic, and it happens with or without you there, right? So so let's map out day one, right? Bomb video, I think, is powerful, right? Now, if we're going to talk about Bomb for a second, talking heads, you know what I mean by a talking head? Those rarely get watched fully, right? Is you've got to have something that is going to entice them or get them there. A lot of people hold up whiteboards. A lot of people have whiteboards in their background, right? Something. You can go and get a cheap app to type the words out for you, right? Something, but don't just be a talking head. I mean, what's the stat? I'm sure Freddie can mention this. What's the stat of what's the percentage of people that watch videos without sound, on social media? It's like over 80% or something.
Yeah, it's over half. That's why even when you're running a Facebook ad, it's going to prompt you multiple times to put in text in your video, because most people watch, without the sound on.
Yeah. So let's think about that in your email, right? What does your subject need to be? And we're getting really down to the detail. But again, if we spend a little bit of this time to get it right and it gets you a conversion, is it worth it? You know what I mean? Like, so we might as well get this right and then apply this same plan to everything. Right? So for me, it was HomeBot, Bomb, CMA. Right. I wanted to put two things in their email inbox. Right. Two things. Why? And for me, why two? Because that shows one is automated. Everybody assumes the first one's automated. The second one feels not as automated. Second one feels more authentic. Right. So I call it like the burner email. Your first email needs to be a burner email. It's like when you go to the store and you meet somebody and the guy that's working at the store says, hey, is there anything I can do to help you? What do you say? No, I'm good. I'm just searching. That's a burner question and a burner answer, right? So just get it out of the way. Just get that burner stuff out of the way. Then you can get to the real value.
Yeah, I think there's like a real nugget in that statement, which is, I totally understand why people do this. Like, we have an automated system even set up in StreetText. So an email's going out, but then if you don't get a response, you're still waiting for that response versus, just thinking, hey, I'm just going to assume that no one's going to respond to my emails. Yeah. What's the next thing that I'm planning to send or do to begin to get that conversation kind of restarted?
Yep. So your intro email and then your CMA or then your HomeBot. That's what gets opened, right?
I've been getting a lot of response, just to add into what goes out right away. Obviously, a lot of StreetText leads are no phone number. I'm not sure how many of you have tried, if you have an iPhone, popping in their email address. If it turns blue, it's an iMessage. I've never had one person think I'm iMessaging their email with an automated system. They know that takes effort, but I'm basically copying, pasting my bad phone number email drip into the iMessage and iMessaging them. And it's not fully automated. I'm trying to figure out how to automate it, but that's getting a lot of response too. And that should be something that's thrown in there right away.
Yeah, that's difficult because you don't know who's got an iPhone or who doesn't, right?
Yeah, and thankfully you can, on the process I'm working with, can still send it out and it just bounces back if it's a green, you know, if they still have an Android.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that's my approach on it though. So intro emails, I like having emojis in the subject line. I like having emojis in the subject line. And then your second one is, hey, the report that I promised you, or the financials that I promised you, you know, that's going to get the open. Your key is to get the second and third emails opened. Okay. And then just always remember too, and before we go into the real automation with that, is the hierarchy of it, right? So when you're on a chat, you know, or you're on an email, from an email, you want to get to a call, from a call, or from a text from a text, you want to get to a call, you know, a call, you want to get to an appointment, right? So no matter where you're at, keep getting the next level, go for the next level. But if you go from email to an appointment, oh, red flag. I don't know if I've ever set an appointment off of an email that of somebody I didn't know, right? So start here and work your way up the ladder. Okay, Zoom could probably fit in there too.
Do you think giving that option, you know, through, I know there's some templates that, you know, are out there, but having that option, I mean, just in case, I mean, or is it just too upfront?
No, I love it. I think the Calendly link to like a Zoom is a nice way of introducing it without having to say set up an appointment, right? So maybe it's an email signature. Maybe it's in your signature, but I wouldn't put it in your first email. I'd put it in your second, right? I want engagement, and that's why I go back to click here to get your report. Click here to access this, right? So for this cloud CMA, what we're working on right now is you can automate this. You really truly can, but I want to get it to a link and make the consumer click. Because if you make that consumer click, what's their intentionality, right? It's high, right? They're purposely saying, oh man, I'm taking a chance by clicking this, right? And if they do, now that you've got somebody who you feel is more serious, right?
Dope.
Yeah. Any other comments from anyone in terms of just tools that they'd like to use? Like I do have something I'd like to show everybody just to give you a bit of an idea of this app your side and kind of expand that out. Yeah. But this is really the reason we wanted to have this time as well, and even run a poll at the end, was just really to get an idea of like the tools you're already using. So it's HomeBot, BombBomb. Jeff, you've done a great job of talking about like we need to have these second emails go out. And Miles, I realize that even as a Canadian, they're not all those tools available, but it's really the same thing. There's just other ways of doing it. Like we may not be able to have some of those tools automated, but there's other tools that we can. So, but just looking into your process, is anything missing? Back to kind of what Jeff was saying, is there any other thing that you would do with a seller lead that comes in that is part of your current process that we're not covering right now? And just, this is a great opportunity to share that. Or is that everything?
Yeah, guides, PDFs, you know, what do you want to get them, you know, what do you want to get in their hands?
Okay, well, either way, I think there's an enormous opportunity here, because if this is everything, like if we start to build on top of this, if you guys start attending these classes, and we start to automate these systems, this is where it gets pretty exciting.
I send out I space it so they don't get everything right away, and I'll send out the market, you know, update. I can put them into my CRM, and it will automatically send out a market update once a week or 2 weeks. So
like
they get that.
Chime? You have Chime?
No, I have KV Core.
No, gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. So.
Yep. See, so now you're starting to discover the what, right?
Yeah.
And so what I want you to do is I think it's good practice for all of us, is just kind of write out a mini flow chart of like, this is what happens, and this is what happens, and this is what happens. And then take that and go, okay, what can we automate? And where's my role in that whole plan? If I'm going on vacation for a week, do I have to turn my leads off, or can I set up something where I can be leveraged?
Yeah.
It should run with or without you there.
Stephen, I actually had a question for you on the page editors for StreetText for the landing pages that we're going into. do they have footers, or are those buried somewhere in the HTML or the JavaScript? You're muted.
Sorry, a bit of background noise. We can dig into the pages separately. Like obviously you know what you're doing on that side. There is a pages tab that's hidden from everybody's view for the most part. And then, yeah, I'd probably jump in because that one's gonna be more technical. But yeah, there can be a footer there if you need one.
All right, I'll get with you after. And
yeah, maybe just send me a quick message and we'll kind of like, we'll tee up on that side.
Doesn't MailChimp have automations too?
Yeah. Same way you could do this here, right? And go ahead.
I was going to say, this is maybe a good segue because even, from our last class, it's always good maybe just to start with this too. So the whole premise about this is that we're really going to be using a tool called Zapier. So Michelle, that's a great question. Does MailChimp have automations? Absolutely they do. And we're really just looking at what is the what that you'd like. So if you want to use a tool like even MailChimp and say, oh, I love their automation or something that they do, how do we connect StreetText to MailChimp to make that thing work for you on an endless basis and basically without you having to think about it? And so, yes, they totally do. And so I just want to maybe add that just in case for some people, because we are going to dig into it a little bit more, is we're using Zapier.com as the kind of like the premise for this conversation, which is, and all Zapier is just an ability to integrate one tool to another tool automatically. And then once it's set, it's kind of set and forget. As long as it's done right, you can just leave it. And if it's done at a certain degree, like you may have to create multiple Zaps to create this, but as Jeff said, you could go on vacation and let's just say 95% of the workload that you were doing before has now been automated. And that's really the goal, right? Because for a lot of you, it sounds like you've got some things like HomeBot maybe set up or maybe not automated yet, or a BombBomb set up but it's not automated yet. And so even that could make a big difference. But what could it look like if you could eliminate like everything? Like, you got an address coming in but no email, it does something. You've got an email coming in with no phone number, it does something, right? And that's what Jeff's been building out and his team. And there are some solutions around that, but this is also a great opportunity just to kind of walk you through some of those steps. You can take it on yourself or, I don't know if that makes sense, but I thought that'd be a great place just to start again. That's really the premise of these calls, is to automate your life, basically.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm trying to get on that Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and load it up, right? Like if we load you up with however X amount of leads a day or a week, and now if it's automated, you can scale. You can scale, right? Without taking on more work. I mean, imagine that life, right? Where you're actually taking the calls or actually working out with the people that are responding to something instead of you having to do all that work. Right?
Okay, show us Zapier.
Yeah. So
How do we do it?
It's
Zapier.
It is one of the biggest engines for automation in the world. And, but you've really got to break it down. You really got to break it down into address, right? Email, phone number, right? And those kinds of things, okay? So it always starts with, in Zapier, it always starts with a trigger, right? It's in this case, it's going to be StreetText, okay? And I'll go through these in a minute. These are kind of formats just to get the formatting all correct. But let's use seller, for example. Now, this was the variables. Has a zip code, doesn't have a zip code. Now StreetText has solved a lot of that. So let's just assume it's got a zip code, okay? There's your variables. Name and address, name, email, and address only, right? All of them, or no name, right? So now we're working on email and address only, okay? And all this is just think of it as a filter. Here are the rules. Only continue if the address exists, the phone number doesn't exist, but the email does and the name does, okay? And when I click on this, it just pulls up those options, right? So here are all the options with this lead, right? So we're just assuming that the phone number doesn't exist, okay? So here's what you're gonna do. CRM, HomeBot, what else? This is where it's all gonna be custom to what you wanna do. And all you gotta do to figure this out is go start a Zap and just start typing in the apps that you use, right? For us, it was Cloud CMA. Now, they don't offer a Zap. but they do offer an API where you can get a report, right, just by plugging in here. Now, I'll develop this and I'll show you and help you with that. You don't need to know the tech side of it too much, but know that it's possible, right? And so you can get a report by using a webhook. You can have widgets just by having a Cloud CMA account. Okay? What I wanted to do is I wanted to get I wanted to get a CMA in the hands of a lead as quickly as possible so they weren't waiting on me. That was the purpose of it, right? So that's where I started. But now you can go, if you want to send them a mailer, right? We've been looking at Thanks.io, right? This is how you're going to send a mailer to that address only, right? Retargeting.
Actually, just on that note, so I was playing with Thanks.io today, and like I think probably it sounds like for a lot of you, as you're building this up, that might even be a great place to start because it's back into that address, email, or phone number. The addresses is a lot of opportunity. But when I signed up with them today, and I think it is going to be so easy because using Canva, we can design a postcard really quickly and easily. Mm-hmm. You can completely customize the messaging per address that comes in, mm-hmm. But it can be done in the system. So we could default something and then just drop in the address. So every address that changes. So I was playing with this today, and I signed up for their account, and I think this is going to be a great one for all of you, and we can walk you through it like a video or whatever to kind of help you get it set up. But literally, you could have, if you wanted to, and you could even do it by zip code, right? So in other words, you only send mailers, like you might get addresses from like 50-mile radius, but you're only sending out mailers to the zip codes that you care about when that address comes in, and it can be automatically done, for instance, right? So this is some of the stuff that's possible. I think that gets really, really exciting because it can automate a lot more of your life, and it's just done.
Yeah, but it goes back to starting that flow, right? It starts with the flow chart, and it's seller lead, right? And don't worry about the formatting. This will all come later. Like I just format date and time, but okay, sellers go here, right? And then they get address only, right? Email address, phone. What do I do with each of them? Well, all of them have to go into your CRM, and then what? And start to just visualize that. Put it down on paper and visualize it, and the apps will kind of discover itself. Okay, just like they have here.
So if it doesn't connect to, if you go up on that list and all the apps, and like my CRM is not connected to the Zapier, can I connect it?
Yeah, so you would do a Gmail, right? You could send an email into your CRM, right? And every CRM has a email parsing program. Now you could do this straight from StreetText to your CRM, right? But if you wanted to connect that lead to other things as well, then you're better off, like, here's our API for our email address, right? So any lead, any email that goes to this email address, FollowABoss is going to try to separate all the fields and see if it's a lead.
Right.
Right. And so you could do that in here by just sending an email, send Gmail. Right. And then
that's a great question. Is that Michelle asking? I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah.
But, we do, like, if you're not connected to your CRM right now and they don't have a Zapier, just for that one part, we have an integrations with email parsing built into StreetText. So that's like you just have to literally copy and paste that email that Jeff just showed you from your CRM into the integration setting in StreetText. Like you don't have to actually use Zapier for that part. For just that one component, it can be done automatically.
Right.
I'm not very techie.
That's okay. Send me a message on Facebook Messenger, and I'll help.
Okay.
Help do that.
Okay.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, this is how I've gotten things over to our TC or to our lenders or whatever, right? You can add it to Google Drive. Google's got lots of different apps that are Zapier ready to go. You have a Google Task, right? So you can do all sorts of great things just through here, right? You can also do the Facebook. So let's say you want to start an audience. Let's say you're like, man, I really want to start marketing to the people that are coming into our system. Well, you could start with the emails that come in, pushing them to an audience. Okay. So that's, and then if you know how to create an ad and target a Facebook audience, you can use your audience.
So it sounds like a little bit, Jeff, like some of the homework, but it's really fun work for all of you that's on this call, would be to find, like, over the weekend or sometime, if you don't, is to get a piece of paper or maybe a couple pieces of paper and try to draw out what your ideal scenario is. And like, even as Jeff just pointed out, like, this is something you might not consider. If you even have to send certain information over to lenders with certain buyer leads that are coming in or whatever it may be, you can actually use Gmail and you can automatically send that information. Like, it's endless. But the point is, you should almost just draw out what your ideal process would look like from a seller lead, a buyer lead, and then if you could try to break that down and like, what would you love to do for just address onlys or emails or phone numbers? And if you send that information to us or talk to us about that, that's where these classes can get really exciting, because as long as you know sort of roughly what the what is of your process, and you don't, some of them can have blank spots. You're not sure what to do. And that's okay. If you've got some of it, you can come and probably learn from this class and fill that blank spot out with another idea that somebody else is doing. But this could be a great way of beginning to basically build out a system that's really working for your business.
Yeah, so I pull up some examples that were used to be in our system. So we've got, like, these are flow charts that you can build, right? And so you have your leads, what happens to qualification, and then follow-up, right? And so you can really treat that however you want. If I was going to use this as the example, I would have address only, email address, email phone address, no name, right? And then what happens to each of them as I go through, okay? And I have pages and pages full of flowcharts, just sketches. It's just a framework, right? You got to have that discovery period of what you want, right? And that's why real estate's so great is everybody's going to do it a little bit differently. What do you want your agent's experience to be, right? Like referrals. This is another avenue. I know we're getting off topic with StreetText stuff, but if you get a referral today, what's the flowchart that happens? I want to send a gift back to the agent that gave it to me, right? I want to send them a reminder in 30 days of the progress, right? Think through that process, and then you'll discover the little apps that you're going to use in between, okay?
You guys want to supercharge this thinking, read E-Myth as well.
Yeah. Yep.
What is E-Myth?
It's a book by Michael Gerber, I believe. It's like a classic on business systems, but it's a good read. Like, it's great. I'd highly recommend it.
Not to change the subject, but if you have a lot of addresses and you've sent out letters and cards, would you recommend, or even anybody that you haven't heard from, doing a Popby, they call it, with a gift, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have different tactics along.
I don't want to get shot, but you know.
Yeah, everybody's gonna have a little bit different tactic there, but
yeah. I mean, we have lots of agents that do it. Lots of agents that don't do it. It's really kind of your process, but you could even have a system in here that gives you a reminder at a certain time if you do plan on doing a Popby, just to remind you, hey, this lead is due for a Popby now, or whatever it may be. And maybe you just even leave something at their door.
Yeah.
If you were going to do a Popby, though, I'd highly recommend not mentioning that you got it from your own site. In case it was a renter that lives there that maybe was looking at a value for the house, if you only have the address, that could have been a nosy neighbor, but you can stop by and say, hey, you're targeting the area, so you know that one house was on your list because they came in as an email address, or a street address. You can just pop by with, maybe you have a home valuation and say, hey, I was just coming through the neighborhood and was dropping this on for anyone. Do you know anyone's looking to buy or sell? I did a rough valuation on your home. I wouldn't lead in with that. Hey, you were on my site and requested a valuation.
No, I would just try to be, try to get out of there alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and also don't do it if it's not, definitely don't. I would say if you're going to start a process, you ideally want to start a process like that. It's something you're comfortable with, that you're going to probably remain consistent with too, right?
Yeah.
So you go to a lot of effort to create a Popby, and then,
Well, so let's do that, right? So let's say it's a address only lead, right?
Right.
So you've got name and address only, and this is like my placeholder right now. Here's an option, okay? Go to Google Sheets, okay? You're just gonna add this person to a row. I'm doing this fast. I probably have a search step in there, but you can add it to a row, right? Add it to a specific spreadsheet, right? And so I have these spreadsheets. These are our database. Here's all of our people that are getting seller reports, right? You have all sorts of these that you could use, okay? And once you've got it added, now you could do a delay, right? Say for 3 days, delay for 3 days, okay? And it's saying it needs the data, but then you could send an email, okay? And that email could go right to a provider, right? Like if it's a mailer provider, let's say you want to send out something really specific that they don't have a Zapier integration. Let's say you use your mailers with a product that only works with CSV files, right? You can send an email through Zapier now, attach the CSV file to it, and they can execute that file, right? So there's an option there.
Yeah, this is probably going over some, but do you guys get it? Like, it is obviously can get pretty sophisticated, but I would say the first part is just think about what you'd like.
Yeah.
And thanks, Kenny. I just see your note there. Have a great appointment. Glad you were here today. And if you can, Kenny, try start drawing out that flow work, a little bit of what you'd love to have happen, what you're already doing, and let's bring that back.
So yeah, will anybody have questions on what they would want to have? And maybe I can help actually do the tutorial building it.
I mean, maybe do a tutorial on this, what you're showing us at some point.
Yeah, I like adding them to a Google Sheet. I really like adding all your leads into Google Sheets because I can take that sheet, and a lot of companies that don't have a big digital impression use a CSV file.
Right.
Right. So you could take that CSV file and basically send it to them, either by manual or some automatic.
Right.
Right. So that's all this is.
Okay.
Now I just chose this Google Sheet that was already in my account. Okay. And I'm just going to start finding the name.
I think I have a basic question being new at this. With StreetText doing their own automation, and I use FollowABoss, which is set for an automation, I'm afraid I'm going to duplicate. So with Zapier, like, is it to be going to StreetText and StreetText sends their thing out? Or do I need to just have it bypassing StreetText and it goes into FollowABoss, and then my emails that have BombBomb integrated and all these things? I feel like I'm missing step one.
That's it's kind of I chose to not have StreetText communicate directly with FollowABoss. Okay, because the reason why is because I'm doing buyers and sellers in StreetText, right? And one of the issues that they have is it all comes in under the same lead source, right? StreetText. And so when I look at my reporting on FollowABoss, it couldn't tell which one was a buyer lead, which one was a seller lead, right? So I brought them all into Zapier. And then now, depending on the tag, seller or buyer, I run it into FollowABoss.
So then the tag is being set through StreetText. How is the tag being set so that Zapier knows what to tell FollowABoss?
It's all through StreetText. So if I'm on StreetText, under the spoke down here, you've got tags, and you can add tags, and then through your automations. Okay, it'll sellers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's automatic.
Yeah, and we can go into like how you can. It's quite easy to add tags to any like seller or buyer ad, and you can even do it globally. Like for instance, for like sellers, you don't have to add it to one spot. But
yeah,
and I can show you how to do that. So the point is that then you can add specific tags that can help identify when they're coming in. But I just want to touch on that question a little bit too, because Zapier, like everything we're showing you, isn't only just for your emails. So for instance, you may have a StreetText automations that are firing up that have some emails and automatic text messages going out to your leads. And you may have some crossover with FollowABoss in that case. So you have multiple choices. You could, you could turn one off, have one on. You could write down and take a look at what they're visually both sending, and you could decide like, you could even modify them a little bit so they don't overlap. Some people just let them run both. But this is almost looking at this. It's not even just looking at your email automations. It's saying, what else could we be doing that my CRM and StreetText can't do at all?
That's right.
Like Cloud CMA, like maybe sending a postcard directly to the lead, like maybe adding this to a spreadsheet on Google because it's just part of my flow that either my ISA or my assistant or somebody's doing something else with. And so it's kind of building like a holistic view. So it's supposed to be more than just your CMA. Although your CMA can be a powerful integration into this, it's really thinking through like everything that you would want this lead to experience based on how it comes in. And that's why Jeff's pushing the flow chart, because if you write it out, and even in your case, it might be good to look at and go, okay, what is FollowABoss sending? What is StreetText sending? Maybe I want to modify that, you know, and then what else would I like to do?
Yeah, but I think you have to get what's in your head, because your head doesn't organize it very well, right? But the process of putting that down onto paper, it helps you organize it. You're going to throw away a bunch of sheets, and then you're going to go, oh, okay, that's how I should let it. So if you wanted to work simultaneously, then you just don't even need to have the FollowABoss step in here in your Zap. You could just do this directly to HomeBot or all the other tools that you want, and just remove FollowABoss because it's already going in there.
I think that's where I'm trying to figure out, because I mean, I have the process, but everything right now I'm doing it manually adding them into HomeBot, manually sending out the postcard, manually doing each bomb. You know, I have the bomb. I have a generic one that goes out to everyone, but almost I feel like everything's so manual that, and I run a real estate team that half the time I'm like, all right, I'll get to that because I don't have time now to mail out, 50 cards. So that's where I feel like for me is trying to figure out how to have those processes, but they're all manual.
So let's do this. Okay, I'm literally just going to go through a very simple tutorial with starting a new StreetText Zap. Okay, so I just started a new Zap. This is when this happens, right? So we're going to use StreetText. Okay, so when StreetText gets a new lead, right, you got to find your account. Okay, I'm not going to go through that too much in detail because that's pretty straightforward, right? You find the lead, right? You can go ABC, you can find any ones that you want. Preferably, you're going to find one that is going to fit with what you're doing, okay?
And even if you don't, like, you can still put the placeholders in.
Yeah.
It's just basically, it's pulling in the data. It is helpful if you find one, but it's like if you're trying to do something for a seller, if you have a recent seller lead, it does make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, because this is a buyer one, and you can tell that I don't have the rest of these steps in here. That's okay. They're just going to be empty.
Actually, Jeff, you know what we're going to do to make this a lot easier for everybody too, is we're actually going to pre-populate the Zap, your connection with StreetText, with dummy leads. Okay. So that way, when you're coming in here, if you want to do like say a seller lead or a buyer lead, you could just tab it over, and you could still pull in your real lead information, but just by using the placeholders of a dummy lead, it's really easy just to link them up.
Yeah, so here's a name, an email, and a phone, right? So we're just going to grab that. Now, you can, in Zapier, you've got paths. Okay, this is a glorified filter. Okay, so put all the addresses over here, put all the emails over here, and all the phone numbers here. Those are 3 different paths, right? So for yours, walk me through what you do. For your addresses, what do you do?
Address only.
Doesn't matter.
If it's an address only, then I just mail them a card.
Okay. So you can open up that Zap and just go address. If this exists, right? So basically I said, if address is existing, then do this.
Okay.
Right? And so now you get to pick your mailer. And this is where you've got lots of options, right? You can, if you already have an existing service provider, maybe you want to work with them. If you want to start developing something new like Thanks.io, you can. See, Thankster has one too, right? But you've got some other options in here. You see, you can add this person to MailChimp, right? So you can add it to a Google Sheet and then mail the Google Sheet over. Okay, so let's assume that we're going to just be working with an app that's in Zapier. Send postcard. Right, now I have to sign in. I don't have an account with them yet.
I do if you wanted me to show, but I guess I wouldn't have the other steps.
Yeah, share us your username and password, dude. I'll start
Yeah, well,
blasting
actually,
out mailers.
just type it in. Go type in Steven@streettext.com.
Okay.
Except, what the heck did I make my password? Maybe this is.
You can message it me or whatever.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not even here. I may have to message you a couple of them.
That's fine.
Just give me a second here.
And while you're waiting on the password, does Thanks.io just automatically mail it out? You just have your credit card in there and then they just mail the postcard?
Yeah, so you go and start an account with Thanks.io, right? And again, this is how I discovered apps that I wanted to work with, because I'm like, I want to automate my life, right? Because I'm like, I want to focus on only things that are important to me. And this necessarily isn't important to me. So I had to go create one. You can get different cards. And so you set up a postcard and it's got a label, right? So you set up your StreetText labeled postcard, and now that's the one you're going to send out.
You should actually, even if you want, create one really quick. It's like super fast. You could try it. Try that, see if it works. I honestly I even did it this morning. I can't even remember what I put in. Just if you go to Thanks.io, you could create one so super fast if you want.
Yeah, I need
to. But once you create that template, it just automatically mails it.
Correct, but you've got to assign it in the Zap. If you have 10 different postcards, you can just pick whichever one you want it to run.
Oh, okay.
Right? And think of this as like you're building this Zap over here, and anytime this lead enters, it's going to have to go through this every time. So it's the same thing every single time.
So a question on Zapier is, if on the postcard's a good one, because we all get so many leads that are just address only. So can you set it up where then you're like, all right, this postcard goes out day one, obviously when it's sent. Then can you add another date that in like 15 days, another one goes out, or once a month it's sending through the Zapier?
So you could do that if you wanted to like have it pieced out. You can do that in lots of different ways, right? You could do that with Zapier by doing like delay, right? So delay for 2 days, delay for 5 days, delay for a month, right? You can do that. It gets clunky when you do that. You could do it through your CRM through action plans, right? Now it gets really kind of techie in there, but you can also probably do that in
just click the free
inside Thankster.
Or add billing later. Add billing later. It's a little button there. And then you can just click the bottom one, like the real estate demo, or skip and send now or whatever. And then you can just click what to send. It's trying to take you through an onboarding process. I found this was a bit clunky myself. Just click Zapier. They take you to like a little video. And then on the top right, very, very top right, see it says Thanks.io. And then you got to click login again. It was a bit goofy, but add billing later, and now we're in. Oh my goodness.
Maybe just hit the X up top on that page.
Yeah.
Go back.
They want their money.
A little X right there on the top of that window.
Hey, you're a smart guy.
Nice work.
Keep you around.
So what I found was really cool about this is you can click on image templates. They're going for it. But you can just click the free account too. And there should be like image templates, and then or campaigns. And I was basically able to, you can see design your own postcard on the top right. I'd actually design one in Canva, but when you click design postcard, they actually have a Canva integration in here too. So you could just do it nice and easy through Canva. It took me like all of like 2 seconds because I just typed in real estate one. And of course I didn't customize it. But then you just import it in, and this becomes your template. And the really cool thing through Zapier is even though it's designed, like the template's designed, you can pre-populate or pre-edit any of the fields that you have in there with the information that's coming in. So like with the new address, you could even include the address as part of the message going out.
So there's your message, right?
Yeah, so they'll have a default one, or you can even write your own in Zapier as your own default.
Okay.
And it's handwritten. It can have a handwritten feel to it.
And if you're doing the multiple steps, that if you wanted like immediately one goes out in 30 days, another, is that 2 different Zapes you're creating, not in the same pattern?
So no, we'll go through that. I'll show you how we'll do that real quick, okay?
Sorry,
so,
others have other questions. I'm just trying to figure out how you automate.
No, I think everybody's appreciating the questions. They're helpful. So
yeah, that's a good guide, right? Because, yeah, we definitely need that guide. So see now, right? I've already logged in my account. Now my recipient's first name, boom, right? Recipient's last name, right? And then I can go down here and pick out the message. I can type it out, right? I can do a message template. There's my new test, right? And then you've got some other options. So basically I've said, okay, anytime a new StreetText lead enters the account, it's got an address, send a postcard every time. You don't even have to touch it. Once you turn this Zap on, it's gonna run forever, right? There's no need to like do it every time, okay? So there's the first postcard. And if I wanted one to send out in 5 days, you create a delay step, delay for 5 days.
And then is this also in the same
Zap?
Is this where you're also adding it to your Google? Because I like Google too. I mean, I'm always going into StreetText and then downloading it and then cross-referencing duplicates, which is such a pain.
Yep.
To do it all in one. So I didn't know that this was an option. So it's all in the same one. No, this
That's right.
never talking with this lead.
Yep. So now I have my delay, and then now I can do Google Sheet.
Okay.
And for some of you on this call too, as we're going through this, if you really want this, but this is just too much, like think about your process and talk to Jeff. Like Jeff's got a solution for you as well. So he can help make all this happen if you just don't want to have to go through all the steps.
Here are all the options for Google Sheets, right? Creating a row and updating a row and all that. Usually I recommend look up a row and then it returns one if it's found. So there's your solving your duplicate issue.
Okay.
Right? Optionally create one if none are found.
Okay.
Okay. So you can look it up by address. You can look it up by, email, right? Whatever signature you want for that lead. And then you just start filling it in.
Okay.
Okay. But you can always just add more steps. You just add step after step after step. Right? So that's where it gets kind of fun and then you just turn it on like my other Zaps here. They just run. They just run without me having to be here, and leads will come in.
And does this also for the remarketing? Because I use YLopo as well. Does it in that on the ones like that say it has the email address? Is that just it's the same? It's a Zape going over to YLopo for remarketing.
Yeah, so that's a specific YLopo question, and I'll show you how I do that just real quick. Okay, so in FollowABoss, you've got the capabilities of adding tags, right? And with YLopo, tags, translate and move them into different things in YLopo. So let's say it's name, phone number, and email or email address. When I plug that person into FollowABoss, okay, I've got all my fields right here. Right? First name, the message, everything. I can put tags in here. Okay. So if I put a tag in here, like why import retargeting, that YLopo will say, oh, you want to import this lead into retargeting.
Okay.
Right? So there's a tags. Let's see, where did it go?
And now if you do that through YLopo, now that they have HomeBot, then you don't have to do a Zape to HomeBot directly because they do it too. So it's not, I don't have to create two different Zapes. Now it's just, if I do that tag in that one.
Yep. Now this is my tag, but you can write in there any ones that you want, right? So if you have a different system that communicates with tags, like I use Conversion Monster, right? It's an ISA company. If I were to type in here CM-start, now they're gonna, that's the cue for them to start calling.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of companies are using tags. Now, this is the other cool thing, and I'll kind of stop after this with tags. This is the data that is really robust about everybody. Okay? So if you ask Amazon what your behaviors are, they would have all this giant list of individual behaviors. That's the equivalent to a tag. That's the equivalent to a tag. So my tags might be sports, skiing, right? My tags might be, kids, family, right? So now I can pull a list of everybody that has a family as a tag, and target them with family information, right?
That's
This
great.
is how every system needs really robust tag system. Okay, but that's FollowABoss has that capabilities.
And the main point I think Stephen was making, and even Jeff's making with this, is you take your leads, whether they're from StreetText or wherever you're bringing them in from, and obviously in this case, the StreetText, and literally think out, what do you want to do with them? Start to finish. Do you want it to go to your CRM? Do you want it to go into HomeBot? Do you want it to go into retargeting for FollowABoss? Do you want to send a postcard?
Yeah.
Map out that flow. You don't have to know the underlying things,
Right.
just what you want to happen. And then within Zapier, you can make it all happen, but you have to know that workflow first. And it can be super high level. I want a lead that comes in, that's a seller, to get a home valuation and get into my CRM and get retargeted with FollowABoss.
Yeah.
There you go.
Don't worry about the how.
Yeah.
The how will discover itself. Go worry about what you want it to do. You already have it. You're doing it, right? Put that into a piece of paper and then go, okay, how do I go automate this process?
Right.
Okay, is that helpful for everybody? What else can I show you in the little bit of time we've got left?
Well, I'd love to hear some feedback, like a couple things, and you can do it in the chat or you can speak it out. But what's something that you've learned today or something you'd like to be expanded to? Like, what's a takeaway that you've had so far in this call? Feel free to put it in the chat as well. But I'd love to see where people's minds are at or heads are at with this whole process.
Now, as you guys think that, just go ahead and interrupt me too if you guys think of something. You have this very first step is called a trigger, right? It's what triggers everything down the line. You can have different apps in here. FollowABoss has a trigger, right? Boomtown has a trigger. BombBomb has a trigger, right? You've got triggers. So you could say when BombBomb, when somebody opens the email or when somebody views the video, then do this, right? So this is how you discover what you want. If you're having a hard time of what you want, this is how I did it, is I just started to go through and go, man, what happens when, right? StreetText lead comes in. What happens when, whatever, right? And you can just start to go through there and see what you want it to do. Zapier's got thousands and thousands and thousands of apps.
But I want to hear from everyone. So what do you guys, Adrian, Aiden, what did you take away? Deborah, Amberlyn, what are you guys finding that's interesting? Gary, I know you've been following this process for a long time. Is there any particular takeaways? Because we want to make sure also that we're delivering value in the sense that either you're thinking this through and it's something you want to do going forward, or maybe you need help with Jeff. But yeah, what are a couple takeaways? Like, is this helpful first and foremost?
I think it's really helpful because, I mean, I've had StreetText off and on the last 6 months, but I keep stopping it because I can't control it. And then I feel like I'm just spending money, which is why I got the FollowABoss, because that's helping streamline things. But I think just seeing how this works is definitely what I kept trying to figure out, how you could automate the system and not have to be so manual every day.
Yeah.
So that all of this is awesome.
Yep. Good. Glad to hear that. Yeah, and I mean, look at all these apps. It's unbelievable what you can connect. It's basically you're connecting all these different tech apps together, right? Okay, so there's a lot. I mean, LionDesk is in here. I mean, almost every CRM is going to be in here. And if it's not, you're going to be able to email in and out.
That's cool. And thanks, Miles. So your takeaway was use apps to separate lead types and sources. Totally. I think probably the questions that Adrian was asking as well, Adrian, they've been really helpful in just trying to get an understanding of even what's possible. Yeah, I mean, and for those that you're taking in, I mean, probably for some of you, this is just there's so much in this that it can feel so over your head. And for some of you, yeah, it's just a process of being. I think what's exciting about it is just realizing, oh my goodness, maybe a task that I've been doing for the last 5 years of my career is finally automatable. Like I can remove it from my life and I can do something else. So that's really why it's so important to begin to draw out what your flow currently looks like.
And if you go find the app on Zapier and you click on it, like I just found Zillow Connect, it's going to give you guided workflows as examples.
Where did you find that?
So this is under zapier.com/apps. Okay, and then you can just start scrolling through here, and even at the top, you can type it in. So you can say forms. All right, what apps are you forms? Well, you can do LinkedIn. Cool. So what does that mean? When you get a LinkedIn lead, you can send it to wherever you want, right? But it literally, you know, that's where you can. And if I click on like Google Drive, here are some great pairing apps with Google Drive. Here are some guided workflows. So if I click on this, it's going to open up an example, and I can try it. Right? So they give you some of that intro framework to just play with. The best thing to do is just go play with it. Just go tinker, right? And then a light bulb moment will come off and be like, oh man, I can connect those two things. Let me think about how.
Well, you know, once again, I mean, for everyone here, just want to thank Jeff and his team for doing this and being a part of this. I think everybody finds it really, really helpful. So, you know, if you guys get a chance, just, you know, shout out a thanks to Jeff for doing this. And then I would say probably something to consider, because we're at the top of the hour now, is start to think about that flow chart and start talking about it. You can talk about it in the Insider group. If you want, you can send it to Jeff to have a look at. And then maybe bring it next week. Bring what you've got next week, and let's see if we can start taking a look at that. So that's what I would really recommend or ask for all of you. And if you've got any questions or takeaways, how you think this could be better or more helpful, we're an open book, right? Like, just let us know, because we want to be able to make this classic really helpful for all of you as well. So,
yep.
Yeah, just thanks for being here.
Yeah,
thanks, Jeff. Big thanks.
Yep. We'll see you guys all later.